True Zenoiran difficulty in Unicorn Overlord can give you some trouble when you first start, but once you craft a few powerful and synergistic units, the difficulty will become much more manageable. Even easy, perhaps. So to help you with some ideas for building units in True Zenoiran, or any other difficulty really, here are my 3 main builds for the early to mid game. First up is good old Elaine. Here he is taking up the front row backed by 2 sellswords and Scarlet. This unit is great for dealing out high damage and multiple attacks while maintaining its health at a constant full or near full. The only time this unit may struggle is when facing a lot of thieves or flying units. But even in these situations, this unit can still come out on top thanks to the amount of tries it gets to hit these evasive classes. So starting with Elaine, I have equipped him with the Templar Sword, which could also be the Cornyx Sword if you do the Carved of Cornea's Stone quest first. Then he has an Azure Crest shield for more passive points, and therefore more blocks with Luminous Cover and Noble Guard. Finally, I've kept the Unicorn Ring on him too for the guard rate increase. These items all increase guard rate and help Elaine to effectively tank on the front line. Then his Lean Edge ability will allow him to recover HP as well. Now you'll see that I've set this to go off at 75% HP or less before Cavalry Slayer. This is because Elaine's main purpose is tanking at this point, so I'd rather he recover HP if he is low than do some extra damage. Cavalry Slayer is still here though, so that if Elaine is doing well, he can still be effective against Cavalry. The final Lean Edge is just here to make sure he still attacks if the first 2 conditions are not true. Next up are our 2 sellswords, Magellan and Berenice. They are here as the damage dealers. They hit hard and they can do so multiple times with Killing Chain and Following Slash, both of which can refund active and passive points, respectively. The main thing here is to make sure that they both have blue spectacles for the increased accuracy. Other than that, the other 2 items don't need to be specific for these early builds. Now, you'll probably note that I put the Pursuance Bracelet on Magellan, and this isn't necessarily the best item for him. The Pursuit skill it gives does have a better hit rate than Following Slash, but it also doesn't refund passive points, so it's technically worse. But Pursuit can sometimes finish off an enemy before they get to attack, where Following Slash only goes off after an enemy attacks. So it's very situational whether to use this item or not. For Berenice, she is using the Brown Beret for an attack boost instead. Either way, these 2 can dish out a ton of damage with Elaine protecting them and are the unit's main source of damage. Finally, we have Scarlet, covering the role of healer and magic damage dealer. Alternatively, you could probably put a Cleric here and the unit's performance wouldn't change too much. Scarlet is just equipped with her starting gear here besides adding the leather hood for a magic damage buff. Her role is really just to keep Elaine alive. Between his own healing and hers, Elaine rarely ever goes down, typically taking some damage in one battle and then healing it in the next. Her magic attack though does help the unit deal with pesky armored types. Now I have her Curing Call set to only go off when the target is below 50%, and this is just to make sure she isn't wasting it when someone's health goes down just by a few points. Now she'll only use it when we really need it, which also helps keep the unit alive. So Elaine's unit really is a sponge tank / striker unit that can take the role of a main assaulting unit, dealing damage and healing itself as it goes. Next up is Gloucester's unit, which is an earlier version of my Afflictor's build from my previous unit build video. This is a fun unit to use as it holds a lot of versatility in switching both leaders and who is covering the front line, along with a decent amount of synergy between the classes. Depending on the battle at hand, we can swap Berengaria and Travis into the tank position. If we are facing anything with True Strike, we can put Berengaria up front, keeping Travis safe and allowing our unit to still be effective. Otherwise, Travis can stay up front, dodging everything. Sometimes swapping these 2 can be the difference between a terrible defeat and a 0 damage taken victory. As far as swapping leaders, if we need the mobility of flight, we can put our Griffin Rider in charge, or if we need the speed of cavalry, we can put Gloucester in charge. As far as the actual characters and their abilities, first up is Travis, who is here to dodge and poison. Being equipped with a Viper Fang gives him Poison Slash, allowing him to poison one foe. Toxic Throw does the same, but it does less damage, which is why I'm not using it. Though I have swapped these around to try and attack the back row casters before, hence the condition here. He is also equipped with a Silken Scarf and Lucky Coin, which I think I took off Sharon to buff his evasion. Next is Gloucester, which is also here to poison with Venom Axe. At this point, this is all we really need him for, but he also has a nice passive Sanguine Arts to heal himself when he needs it. Later on, he'll have some more abilities to make him more effective in this team. The main thing is to try and get his initiative ahead of Berengaria's so that you can have 2 poisoned enemies for her to use Death Spin on. I've given him a dove plume to help with this, but as in my case, you may need to give Berengaria something to reduce her initiative, as the 2 characters actually have the same right now. This hasn't been too much of an issue for me due to how often Berengaria attacks anyway, but it's something I will address soon with this unit if needs be. Then we have Berengaria, who the unit really is built around. Her passive, Eye of the Warrior Princess, will reduce enemy attack power and initiative, and then her Sanguine Pursuit will heal any damage she's taken while dealing damage to an enemy. Now, part of the synergy of this unit is that Sanguine Pursuit will go off and hit the enemy that Travis poisoned, thereby refunding the passive point and allowing Berengaria to use Sanguine Pursuit again. Then when Gloucester goes, this skill can be used again as his attack poisons as well. So already Berengaria is getting 2 attacks that heal her before we even talk about her active skills. Death Spin then will do more damage to any poisoned enemies still standing if there are at least 2 in the row. Otherwise, Berengaria will finish them off with Carnage instead. Finally, we have Pauline here as our Griffin Knight. Her main role is as a cavalry and flying unit counter, raising the unit's combat effectiveness against these, and to give the unit the ability to fly when needed. Also, since High Swing is considered a ranged attack, it's a nice way to handle those annoying healers and debuffers on the enemy's back line. Feathering here is set to the 3rd action just to make sure it doesn't go off, as it's mostly a waste at this point in the unit's life, and the only one benefiting from it would be Berengaria, and I'd rather have Wing Rest go off for the healing. I could have just removed the ability altogether, of course, but this was my way of making sure I don't forget that she has it. The last of the 3 units is Virginia's unit. This unit is another versatile one, being able to handle highly evasive enemies with ease, while still able to hold its own against almost anything else. The sword fighters bring true strikes for taking out thieves and flyers, while Virginia provides protection from assists and a bit of tanking when needed, along with okay attacks against armored and flying foes. And Aubin brings in an item to buff the sword fighters and his own rolling axe attack to mop up. Starting with Virginia, her Iron Crusher and Vertical Edge skills can help against armored and flying enemies respectively, and her Royal Guard can give her some protection for those battles she needs to be in the front for. See, sometimes you'll come across fights where even with their parry ability, you might lose your sword fighters, and simply putting them on the back line and Virginia in front can be the difference between victory and defeat, just like it was with Gloucester's unit. Virginia also will lower the damage taken from ranged assists as long as she is the party leader as well. Next we'll cover Aubin. Now, Aubin can do some decent damage with his rolling axe, which can be great for finishing off enemies already weakened by our sword fighters, but his claim to fame in this unit comes from his items. I've given him the Gambler's Coin and a Lapis Pendant so that he can use Inspiration, which comes from the Gambler's Coin, on both the sword fighters. See, the Inspiration skill gives a 30% increase to attack and a 50% increase to critical damage to an ally for the cost of 50 less accuracy. However, since this skill gets used with the sword fighter's Keen Edge ability, which has True Strike, the accuracy debuff is completely negated. So Aubin is greatly increasing the damage of the 2 sword fighters' active abilities. This damage increase is no joke, allowing this unit to put out a lot more damage than it normally would. This then brings us to the sword fighters. Both are equipped exactly the same with a Wyvern Razor, Lapis Pendant, and Silken Scarf. The Silken Scarfs allow them to dodge tank pretty well for the team, while the Lapis Pendants allow Leia to use Hasten to Strike and still parry 1 blow, while Aramis is able to use parry twice. Now, the 2 skills are set up slightly differently, but that's just because Aramis has hit level 15 and added a new skill, and his initiative is lower, so there's no need to modify his Hasten Strike as it isn't going to go off anyway, since it is a limited skill and Leia's will go off first. I've already talked about the effect of Keen Edge and the buff from Aubin, so I won't go into it again, other than to say that, depending on the situation, you may not want Impale to go off in a battle as it will suffer from the accuracy debuff since it isn't a True Strike. You may want to switch Impale and Keen Edge around pre-battle sometimes to see what effect that will have. These 3 units are my main pushers, assaulting the enemy head-on, while the rest of my units provide support. In fact, I'll cover just a quick high-level look at the other 3, just to give you an idea of what you might want to do with them as well. Rolf's unit is the ranged support and defender. If I need to leave someone at a base to protect it, he's my guy. Hodrick and Sharon make a good tank healer combo to keep the unit alive, while Morden smashes armor, and Rolf takes care of scouts, flyers, and casters. Casters are the one weakness, of course, since Hodrick's out front, but most of the time, the units assaulting your bases aren't caster-based. Yana's unit is my magic support. It's not great at attacking anything, but can usually hold its own in defense thanks to the Shaman's debuffs and Cleric's heals. Mostly Yana's unit follows behind my main units to provide magic assists, but also healing via Prim's Valor skill. Finally, Fran's unit is actually starting to become another effective frontliner, but mostly I like to use this one for flanking enemy positions such as watchtowers or faraway bases with defenders weak to this unit. Actually, let's take a look at this one real quick. So I've got Oclise set in the front as a dodge tank equipped with another Silken Scarf. However, she also carries a shield, meaning if she fails to dodge, she can use her Diurnal Guard to lower the damage taken. Then her Spiral Sword attack will further buff her evasion, making her near impossible to hit. The rest of the unit is set up mainly as a flying unit counter, as I'm in Drakkenhold with this playthrough right now, with Melisandre's True Strike attacks for flyers or scouts, Fran for cavalry or other flyers, and Liza's crossbow attacks for flyers as well, though her heals come in handy for keeping Oclise up too. Having this unit come along in support of the main front is also nice for Liza's Smoke Bolt Valor skill, as this is a great way to prevent enemy assists until you can manage to take out the assisting units. I'll have an updated build list once I get a bit farther into my True Zenoiran Run, which I stream several days a week if you want to check it out and talk about different build theories. Until then, check out this video for some more interesting ideas, like, subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and keep on gaming.